Straight up, some parts of the Primal Hunter book 2 literally put me to sleep, knocked me right out. I have been a little sleep deprived lately, so it's not entirely the author's fault, but damn, this book has some dull, pointless moments. Then, some parts were so butt cheek clenchingly tense, I couldn't sleep that night. What a wild ride! Whoa, let's get into it.
No fluff writing advice. Cut the fluff!
Alright, let's start with the good, move on to the bad, and finish with the ugly, because the Primal Hunter is a bit of an ugly duckling. You need to look beneath the surface, through the thick walls of pointless exposition to see the beauty. Yes, the beauty is there. For example, while parts of the plot do drag on, the fight scenes are almost always well written. There's genuine tension, and it often feels like it could go either way. It is hard with long series to feel invested in fights to the death when you know the protagonist isn't dying anytime soon, but that doesn't mean authors shouldn't try to write compelling fight scenes, and in my opinion, this is one of Zogarth's, did I say that right? It's one of his biggest strengths. For instance, the confrontation with the King of the Forest is brilliantly written. I had no idea where it was going, so many twists and turns, which is absolutely essential when writing an engaging fight scene. Perhaps the author of another series I won't name, because whenever I do, fans appear behind me in a puff of smoke to tell me how wrong I am, but perhaps other authors in general should take some notes. That's all I'll say. Anyway, back to the Primal Hunter, Book 2. Fight scenes are great. It often feels like Jake's in genuine trouble. Plenty of unexpected outcomes. The confrontation with William we've all been waiting for was not what I expected. Didn't see that coming. Well played. I didn't so much appreciate the near impenetrable wall of exposition that followed that particular scene. One of many in this book. No, but we're still on the positives. We'll get to the negatives soon. Oh, another point about the King of the Forest situation. I love that Jake's given a choice here. He's not just being pushed around by the system or the plot. He makes his choice and he has to deal with that decision. It shows how headstrong his character is, which is why I do have a gripe. Yes, a gripe about one of his choices that could have been super disruptive in a good way, but instead the author takes the safe and easy approach. I'll discuss that soon. Firstly, more good. The flashbacks in this book help to humanize Jake a bit as he becomes less and less human. I also love how characters' actions dictate their evolutions or the skills they have available. It's interesting to know that each action could and does shape a character's future. I also love that the author's building a cast of compelling characters. The Doctor, I didn't see where that was going. Interesting take on that particular class. I won't say any more. The games the gods are playing with Jake's universe and the people in it add an extra layer to the story. I'm sure that will become more prominent as the series progresses. Looking forward to that. Before we move on to the bad stuff, I will say the author writes antagonists pretty well, even those like the King of the Forest who only show up briefly, and the overall story would be much more compelling if Jake had a genuine rival. I'm sure it's coming, but right now at the end of book 2, he's looking a little OP and unchallenged, but I do like that he's finally interacting with other people. For me, solo Jake was getting old. When he's alone, he feels like a bit of a flat, lifeless character, but when he's with others, his personality does come out. I guess that's the same for most people. Well, now's probably a good time to transition into whining about all the bad bits of book 2. Are you ready? Wine incoming. Not the good wine, the bad wine. Firstly, Jake's motivation to just get stronger isn't super compelling to me. The issue I mentioned earlier with the choice Jake makes relates to this. Finally, he has a new motivation. I won't say what it is because it's a minor spoiler, sort of, but he has a new potential motivation, and the Malefic Viper says, no, don't do that. And that's that. I thought we were going to get a great moment here. Jake has a new mission. The Viper's against it, but Jake does it anyway because he's so goddamn headstrong. Nope, not in this case. Just does what he's told. I know he knows the Malefic Viper has his best interests in mind, but when has doing what's sensible ever stopped him before? Jake's decision to just do what he's told is kind of out of character. Yeah, if he defied the Viper and attempted his new mission, it would have taken the story in a completely different direction, and maybe that would have been for the best, because now he's just back to getting stronger. I should make some potions to boost my alchemy. I should probably work on my archery too. Yeah, that sounds cool, fun, and compelling. For me, a lot of book two was a grind. Solo hunting mindless beasts can only be interesting for so long. I do wonder if the author has Jake running solo so much because he struggles with dialogue. It's not story breakingly bad, but it is questionable at times. With that said, if I remember correctly, it has improved since book one. So there's a plus. In general, the Primal Hunter is a weird combination of clunky writing and clunky lines, and great moments and great lines. I wonder if the author was still finding his groove in these earlier books because the potential is there. Also, I do think it's funny that whenever it's time to choose a skill, you know which one Jake's going to choose. You know, the one that's infinitely better than any of the others. There is one moment where it looks like he's going to choose something unexpected, and nope, just the author messing with us. Should have known. He's always going to pick the super duper epically ancient top notch god skill. Soon, he'll be able to kill enemies just by looking at them. Wouldn't that be ridiculous? Alright, my biggest issue with the Primal Hunter Book 2. This is where it gets ugly and actually made this a tough read for me. There's so much filler, a sickening amount of filler in the form of stat dumps, exposition, and pointless rambling. I mean, how many times do you need to repeat the same quest info? I was able to skip a lot of the stat dumps. I know they're an expected part of the genre, but the exposition isn't so skippable because sometimes there's something important buried among the noise. So many points get over explained to the point of absurdity. It's like the author doesn't trust readers to get any subtext or figure anything out for themselves. There's a lot of hand holding going on to the point of repeating info to make sure we got it. Did you get it? Great. And to the authors out there, know this: a dressed up info dump is still an info dump. It doesn't matter if you put a suit and tie on it and maybe give it a cunning hat, it's still an info dump underneath. So much of the plot of Primal Hunter Book 2 is drawn out and honestly quite dull. I'm okay with padding the plot for pacing purposes, but it should still serve an additional purpose. For example, character development. But this story, it's absolutely stuffed with filler. Now, I know that's the nature of many of these lit RPG novels that are published online, a chapter at a time. They're more soap opera pacing than traditional fantasy plot pacing. But when it gets to the point of repeating info, repeatedly repeating info, that's when you've lost me. With all that said, there is a balance in book two because the big moments do make up for the dull, drawn out parts. Moving forward, if there's less info dumping and some genuine challenges for Jake, I could see this series turning into something special, especially with all the new characters joining the cast. I'm keen to see where the author takes them. So much potential there, but honestly, the meandering and the rambling wore a little thin. It wore me a little thin. So, with that in mind, I will now stop meandering and rambling. See, it's not hard. If you enjoyed this video, hit subscribe. If you didn't enjoy this video, hit subscribe anyway and hate watch my content. That's always fun.